Welcome everybody to this new second edition of Unveiling His and Her Truth. This is your boy Rob C, along with my other fellow co-hosts, Miss Cena, Miss Francie, and Mr. Kamal. We are here live this Thursday evening to do our joint chat. We have two great topics for the male and females to converse about tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this over to Miss Cena and Brother Kamal for our first subject.
All right. Well, I'm Cena. Kamal, did you want to say anything, or are you ready to dig in?
Yeah, I don't know that we have we don't need to do a whole lot of lead into this because judging from the feedback from both of the chats, yeah. So you guys know me. I'm Kamal, alum from Tuskegee University. Cena, you can go ahead and do your introduction.
Well, I'm from the beautiful Aggie land, which most of y'all know. Go Aggies! All right. So we're gonna go ahead and dig in with the first topic, and the first topic being let me make sure everybody can hear me. Okay. So the first topic is: do pick-me's produce less effort from men? And can a woman have pick-me-like expectations, but still desire traditional expectations? So maybe not being into material things, maybe not all the glitz and glam all of the time, et cetera, et cetera. So the purpose behind the word pick-me tonight, folks, take it for what you understand it to mean. And you start raising your hands if you have something to input on that first question. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's really nothing I can do about it. It's my buddy.
Okay.
I'm at my buddy's house. He's watching the game. There's really nothing I can do about it. So why don't we start with the ladies first? Since I think there seems to be varying degrees of what the definition of a pick-me is.
Right.
I don't want to start picking on people. Yeah, I don't want to start picking on people. So any of you ladies, just go ahead and chime in, and let's go ahead and get it started. Okay, I'm just going to start picking on people. Charlene, why don't you go ahead and chime in and give your input on this?
I guess I'll have to double back to have some dialogue because I don't fully understand the concept of a pick-me. It's not something that I'm familiar with, so I've really been learning from other people about this pick-me mentality. I think from a dialogue we had in the chat over a post was that the gentleman wanted to do something special, and then some lady responded where it was like, oh, I don't need all of that. And so I think that from what I've heard from other people, like I said, I don't fully understand the concept, but someone who's attention seeking, or they may have some negative, like not pure intentions for a man who's a pick me, then for them to have traditional expectations is kind of misleading. I mean, that's what I got out of it, is for you to be attention seeking in one way and then expecting the man to take care of you. That's crazy. But I mean, overall, I really don't understand the concept. So that's why I was quiet.
So real quick, just to put the post out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I didn't even fully understand.
So to put the post out there of what people are looking at when they take, hold on, sorry. Okay, anyway, so the post that really started this topic, just to give some insight to the folks watching on live, the post said that someone tweets about doing something romantic or special for a woman, the pick me goes off. I don't need all that. Just pass me the remote while we in bed, babe. That's how I know it's real love. We get it. You don't have standards. Here's a cookie. Take it and go basic. So that was the post that kind of really sparked this conversation around the term pick me. So there was a lot of discussion, like Charlene mentioned prior to the show, of what it really meant to be a pick me from the woman's standpoint. And we tackled the topic from different standpoints as the host before we ever brought it to the panelists. So in our discussions, we kind of threw around the idea that based on the post, not every woman is really into all of the glitz and the glam. Understanding there is no right or wrong answer for the term pick me. It really is subjective, and it really is what you take from it. But like I said, we tossed around the idea that, there are women out here who, in this case, the guy refers to them as basica or basic standards, where maybe we don't want all the glitz and glam all of the time, but hey, there are times where we do want that traditional spoiling. We do want to be spoiled. We do want all of that you're doing for this woman, but there are times where really we do want to just lay in the bed, watch TV, and spending time. That's all we want. So it's not to say from every woman, it's not to say that we're like, hey, pick me, because I don't have standards. That's not always the case. It really can just be that particular person. Maybe they're just not feeling it all the time, and they just want to lay there and just be up under you. And, the way we thought about it as, that shouldn't mean necessarily that I'm basic or I have no morals or no standards. It just may mean that maybe I'm just not with it right then. So,
yeah, and let me chime in on this too, just to give a different perspective. Pick me doesn't necessarily have to mean a woman, right? And I think we've had the discussion on some of the happy hours before about men who are panderers or simps, right? So it's more so, I guess, the way that other women see it in a more derogatory way, where a woman is pandering to the basic needs of a man, just so that he can pick her, much in the same way that, like, for instance, and I think I've told this over and over and over and over again, like, in my opinion, as soon as I get home from Babyface, it's like the pick me simp anthem, for men, right? But women love that, right? Because that's how they want their man to treat them. So if you take the inverse of that, that's how I think you would look at a pick me for a woman, right? Where she's not necessarily, I don't want to say she's not necessarily requiring much, but maybe her requirements, maybe to other women, come off as pandering, to a man, just so that she gets picked. So
I'll also give another definition. Y'all know I'm a nerd by nature. So let us go to Urban Dictionary, right? So when we think about the Urban Dictionary, this is the nerd in me coming out. When they talk about pick-me's, they're not referring necessarily to pandering, but it is basically whatever you need to do in order for somebody to see you and to see you as worthy, right? So there's an example on there that, like, a guy might say, oh, I can't, like, women are too much. A pick-me would say, I agree. That's why I don't hang out with women, right? There's things like that would come up in those situations. Or, somebody might say, oh, I don't do that because, only guys do that, right? And, or, it's football season, right? Somebody might say, oh, no, football's not my thing. I'm not watching that. A pick-me might say, oh, no. I watch football. I love football. I even play football on occasion, right? So it's that kind of thing, which is not necessarily who they really are or what they're really about, but it's what they believe the other person wants to hear. So I'll toss that out there to see if that has sparked anything in some folks.
So I
or
saw
the male
Jonna's
version.
hand.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I saw Jonna's hand. She had it up for a minute. And then Myron.
No, good. Now we got people talking. So good.
I was gonna build on what Fran said. I think in my definition of a pick me, like, if you are throwing women under the bus to make yourself seem like more desirable, then that is the thing that makes you a pick me. Like, your standards have nothing to do with it, in my opinion. Like, you like what you like, and who am I to judge what you like and your standards? Like, I always say, like, there's a saying, find the lid to your pot. Like, if you like something, find somebody who's going to give you what you like. There's no reason for me to demean what you like, because it don't have nothing to do with me. So I think that is my opinion of it. I don't think that, for me, like, I would never blame somebody who has different standards for, like, lowering the bar for all men. Because if that man aligns with that person's standards, then he's not the person for me. Like, if we just have different standards, then that's fine. Like, I'm not gonna throw you under the bus because we have different standards. But pick-me's, in my opinion, that is where I have a problem. It's like, oh, well, all these basic women are they doing too much because they want a man who can pay 100% of the bills? Like, no, that's just her standard. There's nothing wrong with that. Same way I don't mind like carrying my load financially. It's just different standards.
Yep. Myron.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me in the definition of it is somebody who is saying something that's not actually true just in order to get something what they want. So it's somebody that says, you know, in your football example, it's somebody that hates football. But when the guy says, hey, you know, I want a woman that watch football, all of a sudden she's like, oh, I love football. It's the greatest thing. It's the best. Where she's not being herself. She's putting something on in order to, you know, get picked or to be the person that he picks. So to me, I think the biggest factor in it that makes somebody a pick me is that they're not being honest about who they are or what they like or, you know, something like that. They're just putting on any kind of front that they want, that they think the person is, to get picked. And the problem with that is once you do get picked, now you got to try to live that lie. And, you know, that's where the problem really comes out.
That's a good point. Joy.
Yeah, so I wanted to piggyback off of what Jonna said. And that's, I mentioned this in our chat, is that, you know, I'm really hesitant to call people a pick me. They really do have to meet the standard of putting down someone else in order to, you know, build themselves up or in order to make themselves try to stand out. But I'm hesitant to call people or call someone, male or female, a pick me, because as I said, our standards and our requirements are based on our experiences. And what we saw growing up, what we have experienced in relationships, and things like that. So some people will call someone a pick me because, you know, that person might say, like Jonna said, I don't mind paying, you know, carrying my financial load, to a person who says, no, he has to pay every bill in the house, or a man who says, no, I have to pay every bill in the house, as opposed to a man who says, no, we're gonna split the bills, or whatever the case may be. And somebody will call them a simp or a pick me, but that's just not really the case. It's that everybody is bringing their own experiences and what they've seen growing up into, you know, into their situations. That's how they manage their relationships. You know, for the longest time, I struggled when I heard people say, you know, a man pays all the bills in the house and my money is my money. You know, my parents have been married for 42 years. They have all of their accounts, bank accounts are joint. All of their investments are joint. They sit down, they talk through how they're going to spend money, you know, what they're going to pay for. That's how I was raised. So it's odd to me, you know, that someone would say, my money is my money and he pays all the bills. That's his responsibility because that's what a provider does. If that makes me a pick me, cool. But I know that that's what I want to emulate when the time comes, my parents, because I've watched them build a life together. So, you know, the concept of pick me is not foreign to me. It's just something that I hesitate to give a title or put on people.
You guys have made some really valid points. I think some of the discussion I even saw in that post, I felt like people got the term standards and what pick-me's really are mixed up. Because the post does mention low standards or basic standards, I think a lot of people tend to mix the two up. And they start looking at, you know, well, if she says all of this stuff, she has low standards, and that's not the case. It's exactly what you guys are referring to as they're throwing other women under the bus. They're saying, or like Myron said, they're not being true to themselves. They're not really being truthful. They're saying stuff, what they think sounds good to you, you know? So I'm glad that you guys are like really taking the standards piece out of it, because that doesn't mean people got low standards. It just means they just like what they like Joy said, it's their standards. Some of the guys we're getting a lot from the women's side point. Since the term simp and all that stuff was brought up for the men, guys, what are your thoughts on the topic from the male perspective?
So just to clarify, Cindy, you mean the concept of a pick me for a woman or the concept of a pick me for a man?
Either or, really, because you guys threw the term simp out there when people are talking about men in that perspective. But, you know, like the question says, do the pick me type women lower the standard, like lower the amount of effort guys put towards women?
Okay, so Fran, let me answer your question about a simp real quick. And like I said, I'll give some very basic examples. You guys all know Derek Jackson. He's a simp. He's a panderer. Farrah Gray? He's another simp. He's another panderer. Because the thing is, and it's especially Derek Jackson. Okay, he throws guys under the bus all the time, right? And he sets like these incredibly unrealistic standards that guys should meet, right? While raising up women, and that's fine, but also throwing guys under the bus for not meeting these standards. That's a simp. That's a panderer, right? So, yeah, just so we can clarify, at least that's my definition of a simp and a panderer. Panderer and simp go hand in hand to me. So,
Cecil had his hand up.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of what Kamala's saying. My thing with simps that I despise is that they're insecure about themselves. And the way to boost their security about themselves is, like we said before, they throw guys under the bus. They want to make what they're doing in their efforts, per se, towards women seem like the greatest things in the world. And then they want to put down other men on things that may be basic or natural to those guys. And like Kamal called out some names. In just my opinion, I thought Steve Harvey was being a simp when he came out with the Think Like a Man, 90-day rule, all of that stuff, because so magic angel dust falls from heaven on day 90. Like what things like that. Like if you do it my way, then you'll get all the girls. And all of you guys who don't do it my way, well, then there's something wrong with y'all. Why? We're talking about, and I'm just using Steve Harvey as an example. He came up with all these great rules after he was rich, after 3 marriages, after he made it to the quote unquote top of the mountain, down in everybody else who's still on that climb up. To me, that's corny. What were you like when you were 18, Steve? 25. So to me, a simp is a dude who tries to, you know, throw shade at other people while blowing smoke up women's behind. Now, don't get me wrong. You should always encourage, support, uplift women. But there's ways of doing that. You know, that classic example is not what you say, it's how you say it. But it's also the spirit or the motive you have behind saying it. So that's what I look at as a simp, you know, somebody who wants to weasel his way into the heart of a woman and not just be his genuine self. Because typically once the relationships really get going and life happens, my opinion, they don't have the strength to really be that strong man that she's looking for.
Okay. Ren and then Yuli.
I just want to touch base on the Derek Jackson character. The name, I never knew the name, but once I just looked it up, I mean, I saw the face, so I've seen some of his videos before. And I have my own set of thoughts behind what he says and why he says what he says. Same thing with Steve Harvey and Think Like a Man, Act Like a Woman. Yeah, whatever the name of the book is. But I don't think he's speaking to all women. I just think he's speaking to the women that are having trouble with men. They come complaining to him saying, why do men do this and why do men do that? So those men that are pandering to women, you know, in one sense, what they have to say could help some women, some. but not all. I mean, I think they're trying to make some money. They're trying to make sales. They're trying to do whatever. I agree with Cecil. You know, come day 90, I mean, he could have said 60. He could have said 120. There's no magic number. Basically, he's just saying, just if you're going to feel some kind of way about giving up the cookies, don't give up the cookies so quickly. If you're going to feel some kind of way about it, if the man doesn't behave in the manner that you wish that he would behave. It's about making choices. I think it's about taking your time. But back to the topic of this little talk regarding women and pick-me's. I didn't know what a pick-me was. I'm with Charlene. I didn't. That was a new term to me. I never heard of it. I'm thinking, when I heard pick-me, I'm thinking about being on a basketball court. Ooh, pick me, pick me, pick me. And it sounded derogatory in the chat. So I'm thinking it's a derogatory thing. But from a male's perspective, let's just say that a woman is saying all the right things that a man wants to hear. The question was, does that mean that men put in less work for those women? I say no, we don't necessarily put in less work for those women, but that may get our attention towards that woman, so to speak. Maybe we wouldn't have looked at that woman in the beginning, or maybe we would have looked at her just like we looked at everyone else. But if, you know, she watches football, or she says she watches football, we'll find out real quick if she's really into it or not. Okay, so all right, that's somebody I could deal with, not just football, but sports in general. I like a woman who likes to watch sports. I like to come home from work and not have to turn on ESPN to get a replay of what's going on in all the games. I would love to come home and the woman I come home to be like, yo, the score in this game is this, that, and the third, and this play is doing X, Y, and Z, and blah, 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 blah. That would be perfect for me. And there are some women out there that are like that. But for the ones that may come up and say that they're into these things just to get my attention, and then I find out later on that they're really not, it's not going to take long to find out. And I just want someone to be their authentic self. So if they're just saying stuff just to get me to notice them, I'm going to notice you, but I'm not going to notice you in the way that you want me to 2 months down the line.
Okay. Yuli, you put your hand down. Did you not have anything else? You. Okay. Does anybody have anything else to add to the pick me or the simp conversation?
I do. I have a question. So, do pick-me's like stay winning, right, on both ends? Like, is that a thing? Are these the people who are winning? And it depends on how you choose to define winning, right? On either side. I'm interested to know that.
I'm seeing a bunch of hands come up. Okay, let's go. Since the guys just spoke, let's go backwards to the women real quick. Charlene.
Thank y'all for the rebound. So I would say, I think yes, based on what I've heard from this conversation, I would say that there are plenty of women who are versed in saying the right things, doing the right things, being available, and putting down other attributes of other women enough to get garner the attention and hold it. And it reminds me of a personal situation. In college, I knew a young lady, no judgment. I knew a young lady who dated who she wanted to date, went where she wanted to go, guy flew, went on trips, did all these things. And then she was like, okay, I'm ready to be married. And 2 months later, she was married. I mean, just mastered the game. And I think that has happened more times than we actually give credence to, on people, I guess, sort of having fun or getting the things that they want to have material wise. And then once they have wrung that person out or had all the fun with them that they're going to have, they move on or they mature, however you want to call it. But I definitely think they do. And pop culture sort of says that too. There are plenty of artists or models who are now married. And you think about some people who were on the pole at some point and now, they're somebody's wife, versus, again, no judgment, a woman who may have spent her 20s in school, may have spent her 20s, helping raise relatives, may not have the most affluent background, and who's still very single, who's single. And so you're like, okay, well, what's wrong with me? But it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, everybody has their own path and everybody has their own decision-making process. But I think from what we see on TV and probably personal stories we have from college, yeah, pick me, stay winning.
Okay.
Interesting. Very
Right. I need lessons from those pick-me's. I'm just saying. I don't win like that, but okay. Joy, excuse me, wait a minute. We got a new JMF. We haven't heard from you. JMF.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. In relation to the whole pick me topic itself, I wouldn't necessarily say that they stay winning. It's based on the category of winning and the category that they land in when they so-called won. So Gia Lambert is the one who you quoted for that overall post and where that came from. He likes to use the term basica, and basica is basically what he defines as a basic bitch. So the type of chick who's average per se, who accepts less than the best. So whether it's, oh, I'm gonna contribute half or basically pay for the whole date all the time. If I'm not gonna require a man to pick me up, I'm not gonna require a man to open the doors, I'm not gonna try to do any of that type of stuff. That's what he calls basicas. So it wasn't more so for the post, the purpose of saying necessarily that she didn't have standards, but it was more that basic thing. It's that the pick me alarm went off because you have a lot of women that would say different things. So different people do have different standards. But in relation to a pick me, you have different elements that have to be there, I guess, necessarily to say that you're defined as a pick me. One, you are, and it's not necessarily just one isolated incident. So it's like some people get to call a pick me because of one post and one comment that they make. If you notice in a strand of different types of posts, you have certain people that they only comment to say the negative of what majority of everybody else on the comments on the post said. So it's like if every woman is saying they like this or they like that, they're going to be the one person that stands out to say, no, but I think it should be this. I should be that. So it's basically to make themselves look like they're different from the rest to be chosen. So it's like, it's those pieces that have to go in there. And then it's like when they make the comments to say they're different from the rest, it's to put down those others. So, and it's like, I've even on my personal page where I've made posts about different things, and it'll always be somebody that'll come on there and say, I think people that do that are stupid, when everybody above them said they do that. So now you created a war because everybody's about to come for you because you came on there and you didn't just say you like whatever, but you chose to attack everybody else on the post. So it's like, that's where the actual pick me part of it comes from, because it's not just so much that you're just saying what you like, you're putting down everybody else that says they like it. So you can look different and you can be chosen that way, because of course you want to stand out and get that attention. And now if everybody's coming for you, you're definitely getting attention. So it's like, you're going to have people that will be like, I saw you on the post. Like, you don't have to go off on them people like that. You know, they hop in your inbox with all that type of stuff. So it's like, that's how they get that attention. But it's like, when they get that attention, what are they getting? They're not becoming a wife. They aren't, some of them might even becoming a girlfriend. It's like, they might be the chick they fuck. They might, because I don't know if I can curse. My bad, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Just roll with it. Just roll with it.
It might be the chick that,
just roll with it.
That, you know what I'm saying, like they have sex with, you know, that they might, you know, come over, you know, chill with, the one they never can probably take out for real, or somebody that won't be around long term. What GL likes to call, he calls them placeholders. It's like, you got the ones where it's like you just screw, but then you got the placeholders where it's like, they're here until I find the one I'm really trying to be with. So yeah, the pick-me's get chosen, but they're not there as that final one. So that's the difference. And that's usually how he defines it, because in all his books that he writes, that he has those categories of different people that he puts them in, where it's like, where he's trying to get you, he calls the ones that ends up as the wife or whatever, game changers. So you want to go from the placeholder, you don't want to be a placeholder for one, because that's how you end up wasting years of your life with a dude and then wondering why 3 months after y'all break up, he married somebody else or he's engaged to somebody else. And so it's like, you have those placeholders and you have the game changers. A lot of the pick-me's end up in the placeholder category, if they even make it to the placeholder category, but really never a game changer until they're authentically themselves.
And before you go on, I just want to jump on that. I think the equivalent for that for men are the guys who pander and then they get the attention, but then they don't get chosen, and they're like, how come women don't like nice guys? right?
They flip it on women.
Exactly. It's the same thing. So I just wanted to throw that in there just so that there's kind of like some way to equate it to men, and why us as men don't typically like the female version of the pick-me's, which we call simps or panderers. All right.
So on that note, I'm going to jump back to the men's side. Myron, did you still have something or no? Okay.
I was trying to unmute, but it wasn't coming on. I was gonna say, it might appear that the pick-me's are winning because if you're sitting there and you're single, and you see the pick-me with somebody, you always see them with somebody, you think that they're winning. But as Jerry said, I don't think they're winning. They might be with that person for a time, they might get what they want for a little bit, but they're not really finding the long term. So it's either that they don't find long term, and even the ones that do find the long term, they find it because they hold that front for so long that they get into the marriage. But then at some point that front cracks, and then that's when you see the relationship fall apart and it's a divorce and whatever. But they look like they're winning because when you see them, they're always with somebody. Because really and truly, if somebody panders and caters to what the other person wants, there's going to be somebody that's going to be like, oh, let me see if this is for real. So they might break up with somebody today and they can find somebody tomorrow because they're just, playing that front. But to really see if they're winning, you got to look and see the long term and see if they're really building something. And that usually doesn't happen. The pick-me's or the simps, they'll get their shot, but it'll fall out, it'll end really quickly and flame out really quickly. And then, like Kamal said, that's when you get, well, why don't they like nice guys? Or the women, they're like, why don't the men like women that are, trying to build them up and do all that? So I don't think that they win, but it just seems that way.
Thank you, Myron. Real quick, before we grab the other guys in these last few minutes on this topic, Yuli or Tremaine, you guys didn't have anything to say about this topic? Want to try to catch you guys before we move to the next topic.
Yuli got something to say. I don't even know why he's trying to front like he ain't got nothing to say.
Oh, Yuli, Tremaine.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I told y'all the hand raising line was like real long, so I ain't running. But
you get special privilege right now.
Well, y'all hit a lot, so I don't want to say the same thing somebody else said. But at the end of the day, people who put on the ingenuity, well, the lack of being genuine. Genuine people can see that, for one. And if you're somebody who genuinely have morals and values, then that won't appeal to you anyway. Because you could tell when somebody's being when somebody's trying to create a falsehood just to put on. So I personally would never conform who I am to try to get somebody to choose me. I got a lot more self-worth than that. I think I'm a pretty good catch too. So that's just my stance on that. I didn't really try to speak on it earlier because I don't even feel like it applies to me personally. So.
Okay, fair enough. TC?
Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Okay, so pick me, this is the first time I ever heard of it. But my take on it is, what happens to being your authentic self? I mean, just being yourself, I think you can get the attention of who you want to get the attention from. I mean, I'm not finna fake and put on like I'm something that I'm not just to get someone's attention. And I think if you are real with yourself and real with the person that you're trying to get the attention of, then it'll work out.
Okay, thank you.
If I could chime in really quick, the part about winning, everybody's definition of winning is different, right? So, I think the key to it is finding somebody who playing the same game you playing, who goal of winning, view of winning aligns with yours. You got some people who just want to be taken care of financially. I mean, you got some people who want to build with somebody. You got some people you know, who want kids, other people don't. You know, you just got to find somebody who in the same lane as you, you know?
Yes. Okay. So for the last few minutes of this topic, before we jump into Francie and Rob's topic, I see 4 hands and we have about 4 minutes. So Joy, Ren, okay, well, 3 hands. Joy and Kamal, y'all have a couple last thoughts?
I just want to say, going back to first with winning, is that, you know, sometimes people look like they're winning, but we're really not. So we all know someone who can get a man or a woman, stay with one, keep one, but not the same one. You know, they keep, so you're not really winning, are you? You know, you can, they can find a husband quickly, but they are thrice divorced. You know, so that's not winning, because once people really see who you are, they don't like you. So they don't want to be with you. And then all, you know, all that falls apart really quickly. And then going back to the part of the question about effort, you know, I'm a firm believer, you are either the type of man who will put in the effort or you are not. And as a woman, my choice is to say, you do not put in the effort, so I'm going to walk away. Or you do put in the effort, so I'm going to hang around and we're going to see what we can build. So it, you know, the idea of, you know, if you're a pick me, that makes it easier for men, it probably does. But the type of men that you deal with, or the type of men that, speaking from my perspective, the type of men that I deal with are the type of men who are going to put in the effort regardless if they are interested.
Yes. Thank you, Joy. Kamal, last thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring this in. That's why I wanted to raise my hand and make sure I got this in. So I want to emphatically state this, right? Just to answer, I think, like the crux of the question, from a male's perspective, or from my perspective, and from most men that I know, pick-me's are not changing the game. They are not, for men, I think, changing our expectations or what we want for a wife or for a girlfriend, right? I think we've all kind of covered it. Like, pick-me's will get laid. They may get, you know, they may be in the book, you know what I'm saying, depending on, you know, a number of different factors, but most men can see through it, right? And I think, you know, most men want a challenge, right? You know, there's always the saying, like, you get out of life what you put into it, right? So, you know, if I'm not getting anything, if I didn't have to put in a lot of effort to get your time or to get your attention or to get, you know, just a number of things, then why is that the prize? Right? Right. So I just want to emphatically state, you know, again, bringing this home, right, from my perspective, and I think most of the men can agree with me, pick-me's are not changing the game. I think pick-me is just another term for, you know, I think like a new age term for, like, you know, the type of woman that's been around for ages, that's just kind of there. But ultimately, yeah, pick-me's aren't reducing our expectations. So that I just wanted to make that clear and put that out there, just to wrap this up and move on to the next topic. Oh,
okay.
Fran.
So shooting it over to Fran and Rob for the next topic.
I saw that, Fran. That wasn't nice.
It's true.
And I'm going out on that one.
All right, it's on y'all.
So, you know, we chatted a little bit about the pick-me's, right? And so let's start to shift our mind to, we're not in this pick-me phase. We are, you know, we found our person, right? Our right person for, you know, whatever we need in our situation. In the group, we've had a lot of conversations, and I think as Black men and women, we have these conversations about support. It's important for our partner, for our mate, to support us. But one of the things we've realized is that our definitions of support are very different. So we're interested to hear from you all, right? As a man, what are you looking for when you think of support from your partner? And as a woman, what are you looking for, right, when you think of support for your partner? And we'll start with that question. let's go. I'm gonna start with Yuli. So you can't say the line is long. I'm gonna start with you.
I made it. You know, in my opinion, support is somebody who, you know, who you can confide in, who won't emasculate you, for what you open up and tell them. Somebody who just genuinely got your back. You know, doesn't try to keep tabs on it when you're down. Everybody falling hard times. It's not this falsehood of, oh, well, you the man, so you supposed to do this, and this, and always have this together or whatever like that, right? So, not to say that me as the man, I won't hold myself to that standard, but you know, if I was to fall short, it's not like she just gonna up and leave. You know, she'll be there and kind of pick up the slack. You know, support, in my opinion, is just somebody who's just a true teammate. You know, who gives and receives, and you know, and there's a balance there. It's not one sided for either person. So, yeah, that pretty much sums it up for me.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I'm gonna go to Ren, and then I'm gonna hop to Cecil.
When I think about support, oh wow, that's I guess there's different levels to support what you're looking for support in. But I mean, the very first thing, if we are, there are roles in a relationship, right? So regardless of whether you feel as though men and women should have traditional roles or non-traditional roles, whatever it is, whatever my role is, whatever I want my role to be, or whatever we decide my role should be, whatever I should be doing, the first thing I want is the benefit of the doubt in any situation. All right? We are supposed to be, like Yuli said, we're supposed to be teammates. We're on the same team. So give me the benefit of the doubt before you accuse me of doing something. Case in point, just to give an example of what I'm talking about. Personal situation. I'm at work, past relationship, a girlfriend would come to work, right? And she would see some woman say, hey, Ren. She would automatically assume that that woman is trying to get with me, or I'm trying to get with that woman. Well, you can assume that woman is trying to get with me all you want. But just because she speaks to me, I work with her. I'm in this building with her 8 hours a day. I might not see her 8 hours a day, but give me the benefit of the doubt. You know, until I show you something that says I don't deserve the benefit of the doubt, that's number one. Just give me the benefit of the doubt in any situation that may look, I don't know, questionable. All right? Don't accuse me of something. I don't like that. That doesn't work well for me. Because if you accuse me of something long enough, damn it, I'm gonna do it. If I'm gonna do the time, I'm gonna do the crime. I'm gonna go ahead and do the crime after the fact because I done already did the time. But to go further with support, if I'm going to confide in you and tell you what my dreams are, well, I can't say most. I'm pretty much an open book, but there are certain things that I hold very close. So if I'm going to share with you things that I'm trying to do, even if you don't necessarily believe in the thing that I'm trying to do, just show me that you believe in me, so to speak. And if you can't get behind what I'm trying to do, that's fine. Just give me the time and space to do the things that I need to do in order to accomplish that. That's it.
Thank you, Ren. Cecil?
To me, support has a lot to do with cooperation. You know, in a relationship, both of us are there together. And we need to cooperate with one another on all the things life has to offer and present. Because we chose each other. Of all the people in the world, we said we wanted to be together with one another. So it should be natural for us to work together. You know, everybody who, you know, is spiritual knows the term help me. You know, God created, you know, woman to be a help me. And so as a man, what that looks like to me is somebody that's side by side, but giving me a different perspective in life. Everybody knows me, knows I'm passionate. I have tunnel vision. I'm ready to go 100 miles an hour. But while I'm going 100 miles an hour, let me know if there's a bump in the road so I don't, stumble and crash. I need that different perspective. I want that these different ideas to bounce off of, and we inspire one another. I look at a relationship like the two of us are in a rowboat and we're trying to get to the other side of the lake. Well, I'm going to row, but support is sometimes you may, guide. Sometimes you may help me row if the waters are a little bit tough. Sometimes you may do something, but whatever it is, it all leads back to helping our relationship get better and grow, both mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything. And then we can be a blessing to our families and friends around us. I think Ren said it, my dreams. I have dreams. I tend to choose people, or I'm attracted to people who have dreams. Let's help each other fulfill our dreams, no matter what it is. People who know me know I'm a football coach. I'm into football. I watch football. Now, here's the crazy thing, though. My wife doesn't have to be head over heels about football. Like Ren said, that might be a situation. Support me. While I go out and do the football, when I come home, help me with the other things that are necessary, and vice versa. But if they are genuinely into football, then we can take that energy and put it together as well. But I think overall support is, what can we do to make each other's lives better? And wake up every day saying, I'm going to make my babe's life better today. And they're going to make my life better.
Thank you, Cecil. Let's hear from the ladies. What do y'all take on support, and what y'all need, like, as far as support in a relationship? Go ahead, TP. Anybody?
There's hands up in the there's hands up in there. Let's
JMS, go ahead.
Okay. For me, I just had to jot these down real quick. Support for me is usually when my man's encouraging, he's not being judgmental. He's been a great listener and advisor. Like, I can call him if I have a question about something, I want his opinion on something. That's support to me. Definitely being dependable and reliable. If I have whatever going on and I know anything pop off, I can call him and he's gonna pick up. So it's like, it defeats the purpose of you being my dude. And I know if I barely got a signal or barely got, battery left on my phone, that I'm not gonna waste that little bit of time calling him if I know he's not gonna pick up, versus me calling somebody else. Like, that's support. Being my protector, being my covering, so anything I got going on, you're able to pray for me in whatever the situation is, to encourage me in that light. Being emotionally available and a shoulder to lean on. Being able to feel loved and cared for. That strong partner, publicly and privately. Oh my gosh. Being that person where it's like they're on your side. It's like, okay, not so much that you condone something wrong that somebody does, but don't embarrass me. It's like, I need you not to sit there and show your butt in front of everybody else, whatever going on. I'm like, I might have made whatever statement I made. You may not agree with it, but we're not about to have this argument in front of everybody else. This ain't everybody else's business. We can talk about that inside the house or in the car on the way to the house, but in front of everybody else, don't do that. Like, don't embarrass me. And just being self-sacrificing, when necessary, like I would be for him. And I asked one of my friends this same question yesterday. Her and her husband, they've been married. Their 2 kids they've graduated from college now. So they've been married about 26 years, I believe. And for her, she said the same thing as far as being encouraging and being non-judgmental, because her husband, has my name. So that's been funny. But she said the biggest thing is like, they've both been sick because she had COVID. No, he had COVID this year, but they both had the flu right before that. And then 2 weeks later, he was sick again and it ended up being COVID. But she was like, over the years, every time she's gone to the hospital and she's been sick, he never left her side. She was like, he stayed there because, of course, if she's passed out or whatever's going on, like, there has to be an advocate for her while she's passed out. Like, they got to make decisions. Somebody has to be there. She was like, he misses work. He misses whatever. She said he's always been self-sacrificing when it came to her and the kids. Like, he would stop doing whatever he's doing to basically make sure he's there to cover his family. And so for her, she said that's what support is for her. And I was like, that's big. I was like, go ahead on, for him, because I know how often, like, she's had different issues physically over the years. And she was like, there's never been a time where he didn't make sure that he had a bed or space in the room where she was in, and he was there for her. So for her, like, that's what she said support is. It has been for, in their marriage, and she's done the same thing for him. So for me, that's huge, just being that rock, that other person.
Thank you, JMF. Ms. Charlene?
Thank you. So for me, support is collaboration and accountability. I mean, those are two things that I need from my partner, because there are plenty of times, whether it be at work, at school, family, or friends, where you will run into people who want to take from you and those who will not help you grow. I need those things from my partner. I need my partner to say, hey, babe, you did this, but I mean, I really think it should go this way. And not for me to catch attitude. That's my partner. So I know that he's telling me these things because he wants me to be better, and vice versa. Support is listening to me. It is, my dreams, my goals, what upset me that day, something that went well. I mean, I need to be able to walk through the door and share that with my partner, because that's my best friend. That's the person I'm going to spend significant amounts of time with. So be a listening ear. It's trusting me. A big thing for me to feel supported is to know that no matter what it is that my partner is going through, he feels comfortable enough to tell me and be vulnerable with me in that space about what his struggles are, because it's not just about me, it's about us. So I need you to be genuine and be genuinely interested in the team growing, and the team being me and him together. So you had a rough day, come home and tell me about it. I don't want to see you at 10 o'clock at night. You done went to the bar, called up the fellas, y'all done hashed it out. Now, if it's a man issue, I get that. But I'm just saying, I would hope that my partner would trust me and have that vulnerability piece within our relationship to come and let me know what that is. Offering a helping hand. If it's something that I'm trying that's new and you know more about it, by all means, babe, step in, offer a helping hand, offer some advice. I'm all for it. That makes me feel loved and supported. But I think most importantly is be my safe space. If I'm coming to you, or if I'm spending a lot of time around you and I always get negative comments, or I feel judged, or, I'm boohoo crying and you're just like, get over it. I mean, I don't feel safe at that point. And I mean, I don't want to use the word protection, because some people use that in a physical sense and an emotional sense, but just if I don't have that safe, vulnerable, open, non-judgmental space within my relationship, then I mean, it just doesn't feel like it's worth it. So that's what support is for me.
Thank you, Ms. Charlene. Joy, I saw your hand up. Let me pose this question to you. When you don't feel that support from your significant other, how do you address it to them, and how do you handle it?
Well, that's a tough question for me, because I have a problem of I communicate well, but once I tell you something one time, I don't feel like I should have to repeat myself. And so my bigger problem is that if I feel like you are not listening and you are not trying to provide that support to me after I've told you, I will just walk away from you.
Okay.
And I might not even tell you why I'm walking away. I will just be like, I am done with you. And I know that is a character flaw, one I am trying to work on. But to add to that, I feel like I need to be, for support, I need to be able to be vulnerable with you. And that's big for me, because it is hard. I'm used to being the strong friend. I'm the strong sibling. I'm the strong child. So if I can, it's important that in my partner, I can be vulnerable with them. It's also important that he speaks life into me. That makes sense. When I'm down, when I am not being my best joy, that he says to me, you can do this. You can, don't worry about these people stressing you out on your job, because you're gonna knock this out, or those people are gonna be kissing your behind, in 6 months, because what you're doing is wonderful. Speak life into me. Do you protect my heart? Do you try to do everything in your, my dad used to always say to me, no one who cares about you will intentionally hurt you. Intentionally. So are you actively making the choice to protect my heart, to to not hurt me? And then, do you believe in my dreams as much as I believe in my dreams, and want me to accomplish them as much as I want to accomplish them? That's support for me. That's how I know. And I'm telling you, if I get that from you, what you get from me, baby, it's us against the world then. Because I'm gonna build you up the same way.
I appreciate that. I want to pose that same question. I'm gonna get to you, Miss Jonna. But to Myra, can you answer that from a male's point of view? When you don't feel support from your significant other, how does it make you feel, and how do you address it?
I mean, I think like everybody else, it makes you feel terrible. I think from the male's perspective, though, in particular, it makes you feel like you're being used. Because I know for me, you know, I start out that way. I pour everything and I put everything into it. And so when I feel or when I see that that support is not there, um, then it's a letdown, because you feel like the person is kind of using you, taking that support, taking that covering that you're giving, and they're not doing anything in return. And I think the biggest way to combat it is communication. Talk to the person. If a situation happened, then you say, all right, you remember when such and such happened, and you did such and such. It made me feel, or it made me do this. You know, talk to them, let them know, because some people do things and don't really realize things in their mind. You know, they'll go through a situation, or they'll go through an encounter, but they don't really realize what they did or how they did. So sometimes when you sit down and can break it down to them and was like, hey, you know, what I would have liked to have seen in this situation is for you to do X, Y, or Z, or whatever the case. Sometimes then they realize that, okay, hey, you know, I didn't handle that as I should have. And then you look for other things down the line. Did they listen to that? Do you see them putting in the effort now, or is it the same thing as it's always been? And so, you know, you really look for somebody, because, you know, we have, or people have the expectation for us to always, one, have the answer, two, be able to kind of be the strong, you know, bashing, leading the way, being the kind of the fullback in football, leading the way, opening the hole, making it right for other people to come through. And for most of the time, that is the case. But there are going to be some times where, because of a myriad of reasons, it could be what's going on in society today, it could be something that happened on the job, but sometimes we get to that point where, you know, we're low on energy. And we just need somebody sometimes to just kind of rub our back, rub our shoulder, and be like, you know, it's good, whatever, you can do it, we can do it, this, that, the other. And sometimes that's all you really need to kind of get recharged and to be like, yo, I can do this. Let's go out, let's do this. And when you don't get that, it's kind of backbreaking, you know, because you know, you expect the person to fill in for you in those times, because you know, well, at least for me, I know I am always that person to be like, yo, you can do this, you got this, let's do it, you know, let's try it this way, let's do it that way, let's go, let's go, let's go, you know what I mean? Whatever the situation is, it's that. And when you don't get it, you just, you know, you just feel really let down. But communication is the key. Communication, and then seeing if that person takes that criticism and is able to use that now and make changes going forward.
So I'm interested. This isn't a question that we had planned, but it just came up for me because I noticed in our discussion we've had a lot of good conversation about support, and at no point, and Tremaine, know that I'm coming for you, and then Jonna, at no point did finances come up at all in our discussion. And so I'm interested to know, right? Like from our perspectives, where does finances fit in to this support equation, or does it? So TC, I'll start with you. Or if you don't want to tag in on that one, let me know.
I think finances are a part of support. I think when you have two parties going into a relationship, I think both should have their own, and then kind of like meet in the middle, for as the financial standpoint of it. But I don't think the finance part of it should be the full basis of support. I mean, because there are other aspects of support that is more important or can be beneficial to the relationship other than finances.
Is it a requirement, right, that your partner be able to financially support you if needed? Is that a requirement, right? And anybody, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to necessarily chime in on that, but I'm interested to know, right? Is that a thing? Like if something happens tomorrow and I lose my job, should your partner be ready and willing to say, I got it?
I would think yes. If something was to happen, we together, like I lose my job, I have to be able to rely on you. Or if we living together or we in the same household, I should be able to rely on you. Okay, if I'm slacking or something happens, okay, at this certain point that something has happened, I should be able to rely on you to pick up that slack until I get back on my feet.
There's I know our folks on Facebook can't see, but there's a lot of commentary here that this applies to marriage. This is only kind of in marriage. I appreciate your perspective, TC. I'm wondering any of the guy. Oh, Jonna, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I do think that it is in marriage. And to go back to something that I wanted to say earlier, I think there's always like an ebb and flow in support, right? Like sometimes we working as a team to go after your dream, right? Like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm trying to open up this business. Sometimes we're gonna focus on my dream. And it's not always gonna be like the equal focus on each other's dreams at the same time, but it is like mutual support moving in the same direction of like our shared goals and dreams as a whole. And so I think to the point of financials, that comes into play when you're talking about marriage. Like we're not always going to be both up at the same times, but when we're together and we've made this commitment before God and our families, then like, yes, of course, I'm going to make sure that you are good, just like I expect that you will make sure that I'm good if anything should happen.
To the men here, would you accept financial support from your partner?
Of course. Am I live? My mic on? Yeah, my mic is on. I don't think it's limited to just marriage. I think if you're living together, right? If you've combined households, whether you decided to live together and you're about to be married, or you just decided to put your lot in life together, you're in the same household. So in marriage, I think the finances should be considered together, even if you manage them separately, but it should be, in my mind, no longer yours and mine, it's ours. All right, this is us. If we're married. Now, if we're living together, yeah, you still got yours, I still got mine, but we're operating as if we are together, whether we're going to become married or not. But I look at, my parents, right? My mom had to have back surgeries or whatever, and she was out of work for a while. So my dad it was on him. And after a certain point in time, he was like, listen, don't even go back to work. You just take care of the kids are kind of young. You just stay home. You work at home. I'll go out and deal with the world. You work at home. And that's the way they decided to do things. And then later on in life, as my brother and I got older, my brother moved on. He was out of the house and I was still in high school. My dad lost his job. And so my mom went out to work. And she held it down. And that went on for years and years and years. So I think that if, from a financial perspective, whatever agreement, if both of you are working outside of the household or just working and bringing in money, as long as you, the individual, where the husband or the wife, as long as each individual is doing whatever they can to take care of the things that y'all have agreed that you would take care of, but then when you know that your portion to it or your responsibility to it is not going to happen, you have to communicate that. And don't communicate it. I'll give you a personal example. When I was married, my wife, it didn't bother me that my wife made more money than me. That never bothered me. It didn't bother her. What bothered me at the time is that she made so much more. So I left a job that I loved to take another job that paid more money because I wanted to feel like I was contributing my portion. And of course, she says I didn't have to do that, but I am who I am. I felt I had to do it. So long story short, I came home one day. She was cooking. There was water boiling on the stove, and I got ready to help cook. So I put the little dishwashing detergent on my hands, and I'm getting ready to wash my hands. But no water comes out. Now in the city I live in, they don't bill you but once every other month. So you got to go 4 to 6 months without paying a water bill for them to cut your water off. I'm like, you knew you weren't paying the water bill 5 months ago. You should have told me 5 months ago we were in a bind. I shouldn't come home and find out about the problem when I go to wash my hands. So that was just some poor communication. Now, had I asked certain questions beforehand, then so I got to accept my responsibility too, because we didn't go over stuff every month like certain people do. So I should have known, but I didn't know. I just assumed that it was taken care of. So, she should have told me, yes, but I should have asked the question. I should have followed up. So I got to look in the mirror and accept my piece of the responsibility. But that's a hell of a time to find out that something's going wrong is when shit get turned off.
Agreed. Yuli, is that a hand from before, or is that a new hand?
Oh, no, not a hand at all. Y'all carry on.
Okay. All right. So I see Charlene. That's a new hand, and then Cecil. Okay.
This is a new hand. Thank you, Fran. So I'm going to tie in my comment from before with this one, because I heard a lot of people mention something about being the strong friend and being the leaning post, about how hurt you can be when you don't get back that same energy or get back that same love. And it really goes to expectations. I mean, we have to own our part with telling our partner or telling someone we're spending significant time with. These are the things that make me feel love. These are the things that I need so that I can contribute to this relationship, as a partner. Without having those conversations, both of you are in the dark and you're just sort of feeling your way through a relationship, when you should come in with the lights on, communication ready at the door to say, this is how we work together. And so when it comes to finances, it's not a deal breaker for me, that we don't share finance. I mean, we're dating, we're figuring out if we're going down that path to marriage. So for me as a woman, I don't feel like I'm that man's responsibility, quote unquote, at that point of us being in a relationship where we're dating, because I come to the table with a wealth of knowledge of paying my own bills, being in my own apartment, and providing for myself. That doesn't just magically go away once I'm like, oh yeah, we're in a relationship. Now I forget how to be a responsible adult and I'm another man's responsibility. Now, if I was his wife, then our money then goes to the things that we deem to be important. I mean, it's still a collaborative effort. So if I wanted to start a business or go to grad school or something of that sort, and my partner could help me, at that point I could ask, but my partner has every right to say no. Now, whether he wants to help me, that is totally his decision. I can't expect that of him in just a casual partnership. And I really can't expect that of him either in a marriage, because at that point it's above my personal desires and his personal desires. It's what matters for our home.
Cecil?
To the point, as a man, does it bother you if your woman makes more money than you? Not at all. Not for me. I grew up around a lot of wealthy women, a lot of financially secure women, and I saw a lot of the men that came into their lives honestly mess up the relationship because they were insecure about it. Knowing them, recognized that what they wanted was love. They wanted a relationship. You know, whether the person made the amount of money the person made was their choice from the women's standpoint to deal with that gentleman. And once they made the choice to deal with that gentleman, then it was a non-issue for them. I've seen a lot of brothers worry about it, worry themselves sick about it. And, you know, I would always try to advise them, does she like you? Does she love you? Does she want to be with you? Then it's not that she makes 100,000 and you make 60. You both make $160,000 together. You're a team, you're a partnership, like we talked about earlier. So if you were both making $160,000 together, then you got to sit down and understand and work out your plan of what you're going to do with it. But if you're constantly keeping score, like my father told me years ago, when you keep score, you will always lose. When you get in a relationship, especially a marriage, you got to let the score go because you're not competing against one another. You know, you always win. It's funny. I joke with my defensive coordinator for football. I'm the offensive coordinator. I say, I'm the head coach. It doesn't matter if the defense is good or the offense is good. I still win. And that's how we all have to see our relationships, particularly in marriage, in that it's you two guys together. So if she makes a lot of money, for me, I'm fine with it because I didn't marry her money. I married her. Money has no gender. No matter who goes to pay the mortgage, you give them the right amount of money, they're going to take the mortgage payment. So, you know, as a man, my security, even though we are the providers and things like that, my security is not based off finances. You know, my security as a provider goes far more into, you know, providing mental security, providing emotional support, like we talked about earlier, providing physical support. Maybe she has a business and I physically pick up stuff to help her office out. You know, all of that is providing as well. So we have to get out of the mindset that it's just financial provision, because I've seen a lot of guys pull women down, and that's not fair. I've always believed a man's wings should be big enough that a woman can fulfill her dreams and still trust that you're that quote unquote head of her house. Not so much a head as far as bullying, but a head as far as protection. More like an umbrella.
Thank you, Cecil. You talked about a lot of things that'll lead me into our final question, because we are mindful of time and want to respect you all's time schedule. So my final question is, right, you know, we talk about coming together. We talked about working together. You know, earlier, Cecil, you gave the illustration of us being in the boat, kind of, you know, rowing in the same direction to get to the other side. That's the goal. But what do we do when there's a disconnect, right? So what do we do when there's a disconnect between how I view support and how you view support? What I need versus what you know how to provide in terms of that support? How do we get to the same page to be able to move forward? Go ahead, Charlie.
Thank you. So if there is a disconnect between what it is that you require or are asking for, because sometimes those can be two different things. And they evolve based on the experiences you have as you get older, versus what your partner can provide. It requires a lot of conversation. That does not fix it, but it gets you to a place to make different decisions. Because if you require your partner to take out the trash, to come home at a certain time, to do these things for you, and that's a requirement, and you know that, like, those are your non-negotiables, then that person knows that they're never going to be able to provide that for you. I mean, that lets you know it's time to leave. But if those are things that you desire And then maybe based on something that your partner provides that exposes you to something different that you've never experienced, and you actually like that more than what you were asking for before, and you're making these shifts and you're learning each other and it's working out to make you both better, then that's another conversation to say, okay, are we moving towards marriage, or are we moving towards something deeper than what we currently have? Or is it overly uncomfortable? I mean, there are varying scenarios you can go through, but just with those two of what I'm requiring or asking for versus what they're providing, you always have to start with the conversation, because you don't know if it's going to bring you down without having that conversation, but you don't know if it's going to elevate you without having that conversation.
I legit am not sure whose hand is truly raised. Okay, I'm gonna go Jonna, then Ren, then Cecil.
There you go.
So to build on what Charlene was saying, I think communication is really important. Like, so I taught early childhood for a long time, so I try not to say this to grown people, but I always say use your words. Like, words are important. Communication is really important. But also what I'm learning as I get older is that's just the first part. You also have to see if those actions align with like what the person is telling you. So somebody can tell you, okay, I hear you, I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna, I'm trying to make you happy. But if they consistently show you with their actions that that's not the case, then you have a choice to make on whether or not it's going to work. And I think that is where a lot of people get caught up, is they get caught up in the words and what somebody is telling them because it sounds good, but then their actions show them something different and they don't want to leave because they're caught up in what somebody is saying.
Ren?
I think it boils down to when there's a disconnect, the three most important C's in a relationship to me, regardless of what stage of the relationship you're in, are communication, compromise, and then a commitment to the previous two. If there is a disconnect, that means that there probably hasn't been adequate communication. So you have to be committed to making sure that you identify what the disconnect is, and then communicate to see what you can do to resolve the situation. And in some aspects, maybe you lean towards him, or maybe you lean towards her, or maybe you come to a compromise. I don't know what the case may be, but you're gonna have to communicate. You're gonna have to learn to compromise sometimes, and you got to be committed to both of those. That's the only way to deal with the disconnect. Just put it out there and discuss it. Say what you have to say about it. Say what you feel about it. Don't take it too personally, and then try to figure out what you can do.
Jonna?
Cecil, I think you are our last one to close us out, and then we're heading back to Rob.
So when there's a disconnect, obviously, I look at it like electricity. There's two wires that are not connecting, which means they got to get closer. There's an old school song that says, if you want me to be closer to you, get closer to me. If you want me to love only you, love only me. So when I think about it, I think about the first step is, what can I do to draw us closer? If I'm the one that's noticing the disconnect. And it's kind of interesting, this last week, I've really been doing some soul searching. And the thing that came at me was, we all heard, do unto others as you have them do unto you. But I think sometimes we do unto others as they deserve to be treated. And so if there's a disconnect, somebody is not really picking up on what the other person is needing, is feeling, is wanting. And so I try to flip it around. Well, what would I do in that other person's shoes, or how do I feel? Would I feel in their shoes? So what can I do to, as a guy, I'm dating a woman. So how can I draw my woman closer to me? How can I get us connected? How can I, stop whatever caused the disconnect? Like Ren said, communicate, and then there'll be some compromise. Sometimes, especially for people like me who are really, really busy, sometimes the disconnect comes because I'm constantly going, and they're not getting the attention that they need. So I've had to learn and say, hey, babe, look, I'm sorry. I apologize for how I made you feel. And one thing I've learned, you have to validate a person's feelings, communicate understanding, and then offer a workable solution. For a lot of people, the argument starts because they feel like their feelings aren't being respected about certain things. And so what I've had to do is say, listen, on Friday, we're going to, get off early. We're going to call mom, dad, kids, whoever, all the people that are important to us, make sure they're okay. And then after that, we're going to focus some time on each other and block out everything else. For me, the football, the engineering, all of the projects, all of that stuff. And it's just going to be me and you. And then we can come together and start rebuilding that connection. We can draw closer. And I think those times, those moments begin to open people up more, and they can start digging into a lot of the other things that are way and pushing us apart.
Thank you, Cecil. With that, on behalf of Sina, Kamal, Francie, and myself, we want to conclude this episode of Unveiling His and Hers Truth. We want to thank the participants, both ladies and gentlemen, that were on this chat tonight. We appreciate your dialogue. We appreciate your responses, and we appreciate your time this evening. Tune in next month in October. We'll definitely have 2 more interesting subjects matters for the ladies and gentlemen to dialogue on. And we hope to see you back next month. Have a great night, everybody.